Now, it is very fitting that we are having this conversation on the first day of the symposium because you will hear about a lot of things: emerging technologies, disruptions, trends, and even AI. And of course, the question emerges, what does all of this mean for banking? Now, talking about AI, I was watching a very interesting video from when I was taking my flight from Toronto to Australia this weekend. And it was about two AI agents talking to each other. At first, it was very normal. They were having a human-like conversation. Everything was fine. But then midway, they both realized that they are AI. And they switched to an encrypted language that no one could understand. It is scary, but that's the reality in terms of how far AI has evolved. But then put it in the context of banking now. Imagine two AI agents talking to each other, settling transactions, making payments, integrating with your core systems, or perhaps your customers bringing their own AI agents and interacting with banks and trying to settle their financial transactions. That is the banking that we are heading towards. And that's the focus of this session today, where we are going to put into context what all of this change means for banking and how traditional banking models are now evolving into the autonomous business of banking and money. Now, for this session, we have purposely made it as a foundational one where we want to introduce some core concepts that you must take notice of because it starts to fundamentally question of where banking needs to evolve. So let me begin with a very thought-provoking prediction from Gartner, which is by 2027, we expect 50% of people in advanced economies will have their own AI personal assistant working for them every day. Imagine that. In just 2 years, 1/2 of population in advanced economies will have their own AI. I know this sounds rather ambitious, but let me ask you, how many of you are already using an AI assistant or an AI agent in your personal device? Right? Lots of hands here. So clearly, AI is moving forward, and this is going to become a reality. And here's why it matters, because this is where the traditional balance of power begins to shift from the bank to the customer. Your customer now has access to what we call as right-time insight. Not real-time insight, but right-time insight. That is near-perfect market intelligence where they know a lot about banking choices, products, and services that they have. What's the most cost-efficient service that is available? What is the most effective ways to communicate with the bank and your competitors? And this is where the traditional banking model starts to collapse because your customers are more empowered and more informed about their banking choices. So what does this mean for banking? Today, we are going to look at 3 foundational positions that are very critical for you to put all of this in context. The first one is about the change that is happening around you, and that is the rise of machine customers and how it's going to transform customer engagement in banking. And then the other 2 are about the changes that you need to make within, which is embracing autonomous banking and programmable economy that supports it. So let's look at the first one, which is machine customers and how that will transform customer engagement in banking. But before I do that, how many of you have heard or had heard the term autonomous business or machine customers before I even brought it up on the stage here? A few nods, not many. Rightfully so, because this is a Gartner concept. And what we are describing as autonomous business is an ecosystem where technology is the king. And it's not just any technology, but this is an ecosystem that is partly governed and managed and operated by self-learning software agents. At the center of this are your machine customers that are interacting with businesses that have fully autonomous operations, workforce that is augmented with intelligence and insight, and banking products that auto-adapt in terms of pricing, features, delivery models, depending on customer context and need. You also have programmable economy, which is nothing but infrastructure, rules, and new kinds of digital assets and money that these self-learning software agents will use to interact and transact with each other. Now, at the center of it, like I mentioned, are the machine customers. They form the heart of this ecosystem. And the word is rather intuitive. These are your customers who are not humans, but they are machines. These machines, they either interact in their own right, or they represent their humans to be able to make payments, transact, consume financial products, and even purchase them. In fact, by year-end 2028, we expect that 25% of service interactions between a customer and a bank will be led by machines. And before you tell me that, you know what, maybe this is something that's going to happen in the distant future, the reality is this change is already happening all around us. For example, companies like Samsung and Google, they're already embedding intelligent AI advisors in our smartphones. Your customers are using them to manage their finances, make payments, and even get access to various other service providers. In logistics and manufacturing, AI has been used for a while now for autonomous contract negotiations and settlements, even for optimizing supply chain routes, predicting disruptions. In retail, Amazon, they have already launched software development toolkits that developers can use to build autonomous trading applications. Or companies like Unilever, they are investing in digital twins that can be used to train AI agents on real-world scenarios. Or even in payments, companies like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, they're all venturing forward with agentic commerce, where businesses can build AI agents to settle payment transactions. Or even if you think about Walmart, a local retailer in the US and globally as well, they are investing in infrastructure to support robo-customers and a fully autonomous shopping experience. Now, as these machines evolve, their capabilities will evolve as well, and they will empower your customers with 4 core capabilities that you must take notice of. One is that these machines will have access to lots of data. Not just bank data, but they will collect information from open banking and connected devices and applications that customers use to be able to build a 360-degree view of your customer. They'll know about their banking needs, their financial needs, personal needs, as well as life needs. This is the kind of information that any bank wishes they could have about their customer. These machines, they will also have strong compute capabilities. They will be able to run mathematical operations, aspects that many of your customers struggle with or they don't have the time to deal with it. These machines, they will run those financial forecasting models, scenarios. They'll also help in optimizing investment portfolios, optimize for fees. That's the future that these machine customers are bringing. And they'll do this relentlessly. 24/7, without taking a holiday and without sleeping, which means they'll be constantly interacting, querying banking accounts. And this persistent level of engagement, this will redefine the service level expectations that banks will have to deliver on. And here's the reality. Traditional brand loyalty as we know it is going to come under strain. These machines, they're not swayed by emotions. They don't care about empathy. They don't care about a happy face at the branch. All that they care about is to get the best outcome, the best product, and the best offer for their customer. And traditional brand loyalty, as we know it for a bank, is going to decline. In banking, we expect machine customers to make their presence in 3 stages as this capability evolves. The first stage we envision is going to be the customer advisor agent. And this is where the customer is still the king, but they're using their machine or their AI that has deep financial context understanding about their life to be able to guide them, give them personalized recommendations, and give them the best financial options they should exercise. Now, here's the interesting bit. This emergence of customer advisor agents, it has already begun in banking, largely due to efforts by banks themselves. For example, BBVA Bank in Spain, they have already embedded a financial coach within the mobile app that retail banking customers can use. Similarly, in Latin America, Banco do Brazil, they have launched a product called ARI that integrates generative AI with predictive analytics to give personalized recommendations to small business owners, not only to manage their financial life better, but also manage their businesses better. This is the emergence of first stage of advisor agents in making. This then evolves into what we call as a proxy customer, where customer is still in charge, but the machine here becomes an important delegate. They are becoming more proactive. Using their strong compute capabilities, they're not only proactively nudging the customer, but they're also negotiating on their behalf with financial institutions. So imagine an AI agent that is moving the money from one deposit account to another to be able to get the best term, or negotiating conditions on the loan offer that the bank has to offer. Interestingly, in the US, Capital One Bank, they have already launched an agentic workflow that is assisting customers with their car buying journey end to end. This agentic workflow, it integrates with third-party dealer systems, it fetches the best offer, it compares various car options, and it also helps in scheduling test drives. Here, you're moving into a world where advice is now turning into action. And finally is the emergence of autonomous customer, where this machine emerges as an independent entity in its own right. It has the legal status, it acts on its own behalf, it consumes financial products, and it also purchases financial products directly from the bank. These are not theoretical concepts, and as I talked about earlier, this is a change that has already begun. As per Gartner's hype cycle, we do expect the advisor agent and the proxy customer to hit mainstream maturity in the next 2 to 5 years, while the autonomous customer will make its presence known in the next 5 to 10 years. So what does it mean? It means it's time to get ready. So you and your peers need to get comfortable with the concept of right time insight. This means it's not just faster data anymore, but it's about smarter customers. Your customers with their AI will know as much, if not more, in terms of what financial options to exercise than you do. And you need to start changing your expectations and engagement levels in terms of how you're going to service these customers. Your customers now with AI will move into an augmented customer era where they will not approach you with a smartphone in their pocket, but they'll approach you with an AI agent that can run complex financial calculations. It's going to negotiate with you, and that's where the customers expect your systems to keep up and not catch up. And finally, don't miss out on the long-term opportunity where machines emerge as independent customers in their own right. This is where they're going to make payments, make deposits, and they're going to need loans as well. These are your long-term customers, and that's where eventually we are heading towards in banking. So now, as we talk about machine customers, the natural question is, what do you do about it? And that's the turn towards autonomous banking that is coming into play. But before I get into what you should do, I think we need to take on a few skeptics, because I'm sure there are a few in this room today, and you might face a lot of resistance as well as you talk about these concepts with your peers. Because when I talk to banking leaders, the first pushback I often get is, regulations will never allow it in the banking industry. This will never happen. But remember, when we talk about advisor agents, we are talking about insight and knowledge, and insights cannot be regulated. So while there will be guardrails to protect the humans, the barriers to entry is going to be low. And we are already seeing examples of it, like I mentioned earlier, within the banking industry. So regulation will not protect the banking industry from this shift. I also hear a pushback that customers will never trust in machines. They are just a software, they say. But let's take a step back and think about people we know, even you and I. How many of us are already using and trusting machines? Almost all of us. Interestingly, there was a study done by MIT, one of the leading institutes in the US, and they ran an experiment with something called as a debunk bot. So this is a bot that is used to correct for popular myths. And what they found is that humans, they tend to trust machines more than other humans because they believe that machines are independent, they are unbiased. So think about what it does for banking, where your customers trust their AI assistant more than the advice that you're giving them. And finally, we often hear that, retail banking customers, they're very busy, they're very disengaged, behavior change takes time, and it's probably not going to take on. But here's the thing, what we expect is that this shift towards machine customers is actually going to start emerging within the corporate and institutional banking space. Machine-type customers already exist in ERP systems and procurement processes, and it is your enterprise customers that will take the lead here, with retail banking customers following in this journey. So, as banking leaders, you have a clear choice to make, and it's not an easy one. Either you pull up the bridge, that is, you resist these machines that are going to act on behalf of human customers, or you pull down the bridge, invite them in. Start investing in infrastructure that you need for governance, connectivity, and also safety and security as you validate these machines that are acting on behalf of humans. These are not easy choices to make, and of course, it's not Gartner's role to tell you what you must do and must not do. But what I will say is you must prepare. At a practical level, when customers start approaching you with their own advisor agent, they have the insights. And so your people need to be augmented with knowledge and insights as well. This is where the knowledge and insights that you give your people should match, or if not exceed, what customers are already getting from their AI agents or machine customers. When you move to a proxy customer model, that's where the environment starts to get a little bit more complex. This is where your human customers are working with machines that have the strong compute capability, and they're working relentlessly 24/7. So this is where the cadence and the volume of interactions will increase as well, and customers will expect you to keep up. So in order to counter this, you will need to invest in your own AI workforce. This does not mean that humans will get replaced and there's no role for humans in this engagement model. But what it does mean is the primary interface with proxy customer has to be machine to machine. And finally, when we move to autonomous customer, remember this is the stage where the machine emerges as a customer in its own right. This is where, as a banking leader, you will have to embrace autonomous banking, investing in infrastructure where machines can negotiate, enter into contracts, settle contracts with each other. This shift towards advisor agent, proxy customer, and autonomous customer gives a real sense of how you need to start thinking about product strategy, service strategy, and even your IT strategy. For one, you need to start focusing on conversations instead of conversions. Historically, for instance, in banking, success has always been determined how well you can convert your customers to purchase a new product. But with machines, it's all about data, it's all about insight, and it's all about the value you are able to deliver through every conversation you're having with them. Which means you need to focus on information accessibility and product composability. These agents or machines will be looking for information from you so that they can get the best option for their customer. And your systems need to give them that information in the most accessible way or in the format that is usable. Composability of products are equally important because these AI agents or machines will be putting together a series of banking products to create the best solution for their humans. And so you'll have to think about the composability of your products too, which also means that these machines will not consume a single instance of a banking product, but they'll break them down, reconfigure them, combine them again. And this is where the world of fragmentation and microtransactions will emerge, and you need to be prepared for this. What this means is, from an IT strategy, you have to think about identity dilemmas. When a machine reaches out to you on behalf of the human, you need to figure out, is this a deepfake attack? Is it a denial of service? Or is this a legitimate proxy customer? Now, here's the interesting bit. I know that this is one of the biggest concerns that banks have today, and they're struggling with it. But what I've also seen is that vendors are coming up with very innovative solutions for bot management. A few, for example, they're combining behavioral analytics with their bot management solution to understand which is actually a genuine bot that is triggering that event versus not. So this is a space to watch out for. There's a lot going to happen. But as you think about it, you also have to think about your core systems, especially the composability of it, your core platforms, your pricing, your risk systems, because these agents will consume products in a modular and a fragmented way. So how to adjust the risk and the pricing and the features of products, all of that has to come, and you need to think about those investments. And as you think about that, remember, these agents, they will be settling transactions with a series of microtransactions, which means you need to have the infrastructure to get prepared for these kind of payments. This is where the role of digital assets, digital money starts to come into play, especially the role of crypto, stablecoin-backed accounts, aspects like these that payments will be used for settling the transactions. Which brings us to the key takeaways in terms of what becomes essential in this autonomous banking environment. Remember, it is not just a technology upgrade, but you are fundamentally rethinking how banking needs to be done, which means you need to start thinking about the user experience, especially for customers that are coming up with their own AI agents to interact with their banks. The technology architecture as well as connectivity, where real-time connectivity becomes foundational and no longer optional. And also composability of your platforms to be able to operate in a modular and a fragmented way as these agents start putting together bundles of product solutions and options and features together for their humans' financial needs. Of course, what this means is as we pivot to autonomous banking, that conversation will not be completed if we don't talk about programmable economy. Because remember, programmable economy is what these self-learning software agents will use to be able to work and operate in this autonomous business environment. What it is, as we talked about earlier, it is nothing but a system of intelligent infrastructure, rules, and new kinds of digital assets and money that are being used for settling the payment transactions. At the base of it all are 6 key components that you'll have to think about as programmable economy and money become central to banking. One is the infrastructure itself, which is the blockchain infrastructure that you need for immutable and traceable transactions. You also need to think about programmable money, which is your new forms of digital currency that have code and logic built into it. You also have new asset classes that can include central bank digital currencies or tokenized assets. You then think about the rules and trust in terms of how and why the transaction will take place, the digital identity in terms of mixing through portable and federated identities to ensure that the settlement is trustworthy, the transaction is trustworthy. And of course, lastly, the business value itself in terms of how are you going to monetize value in this programmable economy, which is going to be very different than what you see in a traditional banking world. In fact, the rise of programmable economy, what we do expect is going to go through these 6 key components and will be largely driven by the demand that we are going to see coming from corporate enterprise customers. In fact, at a recent Gartner survey, where we looked at CEOs and senior business executive survey, many of the respondents reported, interestingly, that by 2027, 31% of organizations, they are planning to transact and make or accept payments using different kinds of digital money. Further, they also reported, 13% of them, that they will start raising capital or monetize assets by creating a digital representation. And where it all heads into or evolves into is by 2029, 78% of organizations will start re-looking at the nature of their assets themselves to be able to start capturing new revenue streams. So clearly change is coming, and it is going to be led by your customers, largely the enterprise customers. Now, to match this trend, we have our own special planning assumption as well, which is we believe that by 2029, 25% of machine customers will start relying on digital currencies, such as deposit tokens, CBDCs, crypto, to be able to support all the transactions that they'll be doing within the autonomous business of banking environment. What this means is when you think about your world, you'll have to start becoming comfortable with programmable money, which will require you to start thinking about new forms of digital assets and building the infrastructure around it. It includes your core, your governance, your risk, your payment systems. Everything has to be reevaluated. What it also means is you'll need to start thinking about how are you going to reimagine and capture the business value in this environment. This is not just an extension of what you're doing right now. It is a reset that you need to take forward. Now, all of this is theory, of course, and we want to make it a practical reality for you. So what are the things that you can do right after the symposium, Monday morning? First thing is, of course, make sure that you and your peers understand this concept. Start thinking through what would autonomous business mean for your organization. Share that story with your lines of business so that you can think through the future ahead. In the next 90 days, stress test your operational platforms. Start thinking through what will it take to start bringing some composability and modular approach within your core platforms, your payment risk, anti-money laundering, KYC processes, and then start thinking about what are the investments you'll need to make in your technology, especially the move towards integrating agentic data and architecture, which is already becoming a reality in banking. Of course, to close, we want to leave you with a special planning assumption and an associated thought, because what we do believe is that by year-end 2029, 15% of new account openings will be done for autonomous machine customers to support themselves, not their humans. So what that means is these machine customers will need very special kind of banks. Maybe many of you in this room will be providing one of them. But what we do believe that these kind of banks will not be meant for your traditional retail and commercial clients, but instead, these neobanks will be directly catering to these new kind of machine customers. So here's food for thought for you in terms of where you want to head next. With that, thank you so much for being here and have a wonderful time at this symposium. Looking forward to meeting you in one-on-one sessions throughout the week. Thank you again. Take care.